Hello everyone, Jason Lawrence here. Just wanted to check in and kind of give you an update on how things are going in my world. I know I haven't done a lot of videos lately consistently, and just wanted to share with you what I've got going on in my personal and more so my career-wise. I mean, that's why you're on the channel here. Is to the year's definitely been a tougher year in the sense that I'm making a transition from what I do with our home building company right now, which is sales. I've always done the sales and marketing too. I'm going to be transitioning into an ownership role. And I've kind of started to do that even before it technically happens. So, I don't want to just all of a sudden, okay, I'm in the ownership role and now I'm trying to actually play catch up and bring someone in to replace myself, and then I'm still having to do sales, and I'm not really able to, to work on the business when I'm doing that. Right now, I'm working in the business, and I will be working in the business, but I always want to have some time where I'm going to be able to work on the business, meaning working on processes and managing the employees that we have, and just making sure that everybody as a whole, as a company, is all looking at the same thing, seeing the same thing, knowing what our objectives and our goals are, but that everybody's on the same page. And that doesn't just happen automatically. It's something that you need to be able to put some time into. And so I've started to do some of that stuff this year, and because I'm still earning my living as a salesperson, that's always been our agreement with our home building company, myself, my dad, and then Jim, the other owner. When we started the company, I agreed to do sales, and I agreed to a certain percentage of anything that I sold. So I've always been 100% commission. And even going back to before we started our company, I was 100% commission selling homes for the home building company that we left when we started ours. So I'm very used to the all commission role. But the struggle this year has been, I've got my sales that I'm doing, but I have two salespeople, and I both, with both of the salespeople, I brought them in. One of them, it's been about a year and a half. The other one, it's been a couple of years. And the first one that I brought in that has been with us for a few years now, actually, it wasn't because, okay, I'm going to be having this transition into ownership, I need someone to replace me. At that time, it was just because the market was so busy. Realistically, I couldn't handle all of the sales that we had coming in. And so I brought on someone else and said, hey, look, there's enough here for both of us. I'm still going to be selling 75% of what comes in, but there's certainly a number of homes that I'm missing out on or leaving on the table. And so that's why we brought in another salesperson. Now she's been with us for a few years now. So as my dad and Jim have brought up the retirement and transitioning, which has been a couple years ago now, that's when I decided to go out and find, and it was somebody that I already knew that I wanted to bring on, and I knew once the time was right, I wanted to bring him in. And so a year and a half ago is when I told him, hey, this transition's going to be happening, and so I'd like to, if you're open to it. He was, the reason it worked out well with him is because he was a real estate agent. So he was already kind of in that realm where he's setting his own schedule. He could make himself available. being a new home salesperson and being in the home building industry is something that he always wanted to do. So he had the motivation to be able to do that. So he was certainly going to be able to find time to kind of mix into his real estate career, training for doing new home sales, because there is quite a bit of, especially with us being a custom new home builder, there's quite a bit to learn and adapt to. So I brought him on about a year and a half ago, and we started meeting like once I think it was once a week, and then it became more often, and now we're at the point where I told both of my salespeople, I told them at the beginning of this year, because the transition, the ownership role was supposed to actually happen last year. And so I told them both, hey, this is when it's going to be happening. And for them, they're both kind of part-time right now. So they're not earning as much as they want to earn. And so I told them last year, okay, I understand that you're not wanting to be part-time forever. I don't want you to be part-time forever. Let's still continue doing the training that we're doing, knowing that you're going to have, full-time and enough money to compensate for this being a full-time gig for you. So a year ago is when I had told them that, this was all going to be happening. Well, then it didn't end up happening. And so the new goal for when this is going to be happening is going to be at the very beginning of 2026, and that is, at this point, it's pretty much set in stone. Like it's not easy for a transition to happen. It's not easy for an owner or owners of a company to just fully be like, okay, yep, I'm done, I'm out. There's a lot of things that they're thinking about, and they're going to be retiring. And I know for me, when I get to that point in my life, I'm not going to be able to just, it's always good to be able to make more money as well. And so I understand, and so there's the reason why it didn't just, boom, happen right then and there. But anyways, it's happening in the beginning of 2026. And so I told both of my salespeople, okay, it's going to be happening in 2026. So now they're having to go through another year of being part-time. And so I don't want to lose them. I really like both of them. I'm happy with the performance of both of them. And I want this to be a scenario where January of 2026, I am not doing any sales anymore. I'm still going to be assisting them if they want me to attend meetings with them, so that the client that they're working with feels more comfortable to move forward. I'm all for that. I'm going to continue to meet with them weekly. I'm essentially going to be the sales manager, because, even though one's been here for a few years part-time and the other one's been here for a year and a half part-time, there's still a lot to learn. I mean, I've been doing this for forever, basically. At the sales role, I've been doing for 15, 16 years, but I've been in the home building company for 10 years before that. So there's a lot to learn. So I'm always going to be there for them as a sales manager. And really, when you think about a breakdown of a company, you need to have sales coming in order for your company to be successful. So if there's something that I can do to ensure that we're going to continue to get sales, I'm definitely going to be doing that, because if I don't do that and we're not getting those sales, then I don't have anything to work on. So, but I want it to be in the beginning of 2026. I'm not having to worry about commissions anymore. So I don't need to be directly working with customers anymore and counting on that for my income. My income's going to come from the actual, job that we're doing with them and the profit and overhead that we have built in there. So I want to be able to have a transition from what I'm doing right now to, both my salespeople starting, full time now, and me kind of being their sales manager. But then now I am also able to do those things that I need to do to ensure that we're attracting more people. I really want to focus more on social media, and I know what kind of content needs to be put out there, and I know from when we started our company and we had no name recognition whatsoever, that's all I could really do was put out content about home building. And it worked. When I consistently did that, and it took some time to see results, but I know what works. And so that's something that I can kind of focus on as well, so that I can make sure that, my two salespeople are obviously going to be doing their thing to bring people in, but because I know what works as well, I'm going to be wanting to bring more people in for them as well. And it'll give me more time to help kind of grow the company, looking at certain things like, hey, what if we do this, or what if we try this, or how can we be more efficient? How can we grow as a company? Pause. I want to be able to move into a role where I am, managing the business. Now, the nice thing is my dad and Jim are both going to be staying on, and we're kind of setting it up so that it's almost like a fade out for them over the next few years. And so they're both going to continue. I mean, next year they're both going to be kind of doing pretty similar to what they're doing right now. So for me, it'll be a nice transition in the workflow sense, where I'm not all of a sudden just like, okay, they're gone and I've got all this stuff I have to worry about. I would need to hire somebody else to do certain things, but I can kind of put together a plan of, okay, here is where I want to be, however many years down the road. In order for that to happen, here's what things kind of need to look like in the next few years. And in order for that to happen, here's what needs to get done. Here's what needs to actually happen in the next 90 days. So I want to be able to start working on the business, making our process better, making our systems better, making sure everybody's on the same page with everything. Because that way we can function a lot smoother as a company. And if we're functioning smoother, if everybody's on the same page, if everybody has defined roles, which they pretty much do right now, but like for my salespeople, for example, because they are still newer, they are still in kind of that training mode. One of the things that I spent quite a bit of time on this year, and I still need to perfect it. Any time that you're creating a system or you're documenting a process, there's always going to be room for improving and refining it. So don't just put together a process for something and then say, okay, this is good now, because things are ever changing. Technology changes, ways of doing things change, and so you're going to need to update that process. But one of the things that I spent quite a bit of time on was the sales process. So what I wanted to do was basically identify everything that I do as a salesperson. And my role as a salesperson is probably different than most salespeople out there that are doing new construction homes. And this is what my salespeople are going to be doing, which is going to be invaluable. But my role isn't just like, hey, come on in, I'm at the model, meet me here, pick out a house, and I'll write it up, and we are off to the races. There's a lot more than that. So what I do is a pretty good chunk of the, a home needs to be built on paper first before it gets built in the field. And so everything from helping the client find a property, or if they have a property, and once that client finds a property, if I'm helping them, walking the lot with them, making sure we know where the house is going to go, getting the topography of the land, getting all of the survey work done. Locating the house on the property is hugely important, and it's easier to do on some properties than it is others. It's easier to locate a house on a 1/4 acre property because there's really only one spot for it, than it is to locate a house on a 10-acre property. So there's a lot that goes into locating a house on a property, and then also investigating that property. Is there sewer, water, gas, electric? Is there going to be any slope on the lot? These are all things that need to be accounted for in the home pricing, and they need to be built into the home pricing so that when you ultimately give your client a home build price, everything is accounted for. So you've got all of the land stuff, including working with the surveyor. And ultimately, to go in for a building permit, you need to have a survey done by a surveyor. The home needs to be in the right spot. There a lot of times needs to be a grading plan that's done with it. There's a lot that goes into just that piece of paper showing the home on the lot so that you can go in for the building permit. So that's one whole part of it. The other part of it is helping the client find a home plan, or designing one with them, or taking the home plan that they bring in and doing some preliminary pricing for them so they can kind of understand what that pricing is. Ultimately, we will then take and put enough information together so that we can get our own blueprint drawn up, and we can have one of the things my dad does, have my dad bid out the entire home per all of the information that I've collected from the client, all of the floor plan info that we have, because we've now turned that into a blueprint with our draftsmen. And the other thing that kind of goes hand in hand with that are the selections. So that's another thing that I'm responsible for, is making sure that before we're starting the home, everything from the color of their siding to the countertops in their home are all picked out and solidified. So that way, when we're bidding out the home, when we're going to give them an exact price so that they can take that price, they can go to the bank, they can get their construction loan, it's got to have all the selections accounted for in there. So it's a big role. There's a lot of things that are in there. So that's what I'm writing down for the sales process, is everything that I'm doing. And now there's a lot of things that I just need, or I know how to do automatically. If the home doesn't have well or septic, if the home doesn't have sewer and water and it needs well and septic, well, I know I'm going to contact the septic guy. I'm going to send him over the blueprint, the survey. I'm going to have him get rolling on the septic permit. If the lot has sewer and water, I don't need to do that. Well, a new salesperson that is coming in to do what I'm doing is not going to know that they need to do that. So I need to have a process, a sales process for that salesperson, so that if somebody walks in off the street and they don't know anything about anything, they have a detailed process that they can follow. And it's very cut and dry. At the beginning of meeting that person, here's step one. This is the first thing that you need to do. By the time the client is all done, and if you want to earn your commission, and that's about at the point in time in which the customer has closed on their construction loan, so right before we're actually going to be starting their home, here's everything that needs to be done in between, every box that needs to be checked. And so every box needs to be checked. I want this sales process to come back to me, bring it back to me, Jason, once everything is checked, once they're closing on the construction loan, and we can say, hey, I want to get paid my commission. Well, everything on here is completely done and checked off. And so, yes, your job is completely done. You've done everything that you've needed to do with that client, because it's everything that's called out here on the sales process. So it's very clear, cut, and dry. And like I mentioned before, I'm still refining that. But that's what I spent quite a bit of time on, was putting something like that together so that they could each have that. And then in the future, if somebody else is going to be coming in, let's say I'm going to be promoting one of my salespeople to start doing some other things, because now they know and they've learned so much from what they've done in the sales role. Now they can move up into another position, but now I need to replace them with another salesperson. Now I've got a sales process, and then that salesperson should be able to kind of help train the new one as well, because they've been doing it, they've got some experience, we've got a sales process. So everybody in the company needs to have a process. So one of the things that we had our employees do this year was, and even the owners, my dad and Jim, everybody wrote down everything that they do. Everything wrote down. Everybody wrote down what their role is. So we don't have a lot of employees. We're a small home builder, but I've got myself, got 2 other salespeople. We've got 2 guys in the field. We've got my dad and Jim, and then we've got Kathy in the office, who does a whole plethora of things. So everybody wrote down what they do. And so now we can have a clear and collective, like I can picture myself having a binder, and this is the job description for each person that we have. And this is a great thing, because in the future, if somebody leaves or somebody goes somewhere else or just whatever happens, we now have a description of what someone new would be able to do. Or I can look at these descriptions and I can say, okay, you know what? This is something that maybe you don't really need to be doing. This isn't your best time spent doing this. So let's give this to somebody else and let you focus on something else here that's going to help us grow more. Or maybe we decide, you know what? I've got a few different things from each person's description that we could hire somebody else for to take care of those things. And if I took a few things off of each person's plate and had them do things that were going to help us grow, well, then it would be worth hiring that other person, because we're going to be growing. And you've got to look at the numbers there to be able to say, okay, yeah, if we do hire somebody and we're going to pay them X amount of dollars, and we're able to now build 4 more homes a year, does that cover the difference? And you've got to be able to make that decision there. But that's one of the things that we did this year, is had everybody write down the processes that they do. So those are the things that I want to continue. As a business owner, I don't want to be in a position where I'm just so busy with answering my calls, getting back to the emails that I have, doing my normal tasks that I have to do all the time. I don't want to be so busy with that I'm not able to kind of step out of that and say, okay, what do we need to do to bring our build times down? What do we need to do to be more efficient? What can we do to make more money? What can we do to grow as a company? If you're just engulfed in all of the stuff that you have to do, and you don't have time to breathe or do anything else, you're never going to be able to grow. So what I'm trying to do here right off the bat is, because I very well could have said, you know what, and there could have even been some more money to be made for me off of the bat here, if I would have said, you know what, I'm not going to bring on any salespeople. I'm just going to continue to do sales. So my dad's still kind of doing what he's going to be doing. Jim's kind of still doing what he's going to be doing. And I'm now going to be getting a percentage of ownership. Plus, if I don't have to pay a salesperson, that's a whole nother pretty good percent. I mean, that's another, $15,000 to $30,000 on average per home that we're not paying somebody a commission for. That's more money that we're making as a company. But if we did that, I would be fully engulfed in sales. I wouldn't have time to do anything else. I would be so busy with everything that I'm doing sales-wise that I would not be able to step out of that role and say, what do we need to do as a business to grow? If I have 2 salespeople that on January 1st of 2026, I can step out of that, and I'm kind of already doing it right now. Thus, the reason why this year's been more difficult, because I am doing that. I'm spending a lot of time training them and helping them, and I'm literally giving them like new leads that are coming in right now that I would normally be taking for myself and selling and earning a commission on. I am now giving every other one to them, and I'm still working on those leads with them and spending time with them, but I'm not getting paid the same amount that I would be if I was just taking that customer. So there's definitely been a sacrifice there for the good of the long run. Because again, like I said, I could have done better financially if I just said, nope, no salespeople. I'm taking all the sales. I'll continue to do my commissions. Then when I take over the ownership role, I'm still going to be doing sales, but we'll be making X amount of dollars more per each home. But then what do I do when my dad leaves? So yeah, my dad and Jim are going to be there next year. But then the following year, they got a much more limited role. The following year after that, they have a very limited role, and then they're done. So then what? I mean, like, what happens in 2027 when they have more of a limited role? And I'm so busy with sales, I can't do anything else. I can't look up to do anything else, but they have a more limited role. Well, then other things aren't getting done. And how am I supposed to find somebody that can fill their shoes if I'm so engulfed in what I'm doing? So I feel very confident in the way that I've been planning for this, and in the way that I've been thinking about this. And basically what that is that I want to be able to have my people in place to take over what I'm doing right now come January 1st. So come January 1st, I can be in that sales manager position, still helping them, because again, need to get those sales up front. But I will have time to be able to say, what are we lacking here in social media? And actually, I'm going to go again. The reason why it's a more difficult year, in all of the years past, I've just focused on sales, and that's it. And it's been great. Sales, commission, perfect. But because there's a transition happening, I want to start planning ahead. So one of the other things that I've recently done is I've brought somebody on to start doing social media at very part-time. Every other day we're putting out a post. They're putting out a post, and you may say, well, okay, well, that's not very aggressive, but compared to what we were doing before, we've at least got something going out every other day. Now, in compilation to, I do live videos sometimes. I put out a post yesterday about our model home because we're going to be selling our model home. So I put out a post on, hey, it's for sale and here's pictures. And so in compilation with the post that I'm going to be putting out, and I do want my salespeople to be putting out some posts. That's going to be something I'm going to put into the sales process. There's going to be a lot of content going out. So moving forward, we could literally have something every day that's going out. So great. Advertising on social media, checked. I'm not feeling like we're lacking in that department anymore. But I can look at some of the other things that we're doing as well. For example, we've recently started to build some side-by-side retirement homes for a developer. There was a developer we hooked up with a couple of years ago. He needed 2 side-by-side, essentially homes, condos built as retirement homes to finish up a project that he was doing. And we did that, and we developed a relationship with them. So now we're going to be doing 6 more of these buildings in another development for him. And then he's got another development that's coming up that's going to have even more. So I thought to myself, well, okay, what if, retirement homes are not like something that flows along with the real estate market. Even if the real estate market is down or the economy is down, there's still a demand for retirement homes. So I feel like this is a market that could be very, very consistent, and maybe could be kind of another branch of what we do. So part of working on the business and growing the business would be me contacting the state of Wisconsin, hey, who's got permits to do retirement homes? Where are they looking to do them? And then me contacting all of them and saying, hey, we've been building these now for another developer. We kind of got our pricing down on it. We've got our system down on it. And I'm sure if I do that, we'll be able to pick up a couple more developers and some more buildings that we can build. So that would be considered growing the business. So those are the things that I want to be able to do from day one. So I feel like the difficult year with me now passing off sales that I would normally be taking, and me, I still have customers that I'm working with and commissions out there, but that's not the only thing I'm working on. I'm still training here and I'm training here and I'm getting these things set up. I'm hiring somebody to do part-time social media here, and I'm wanting to, I'm going to meet with our guy that we have in the field next week so that we can start even more so perfecting our selection system and perfecting that building process out in the field. So there's just a lot of things that I'm doing right now. And that's the home building company. In addition to that, what I do here is kind of like a business. I mean, it is. I do have like a consulting coaching membership program that some of you are involved with, and I've got a whole video library of videos that I've created for that, and I've got more of an advanced program that includes monthly phone calls, and I've got a really advanced one where I even am available at any time, and I'm coming out to the site to help you help you build your spec home. And so that's a business too. So that's why I haven't been doing as many videos, because I've got a lot more stuff going on with my primary business. And then I'm in real estate as well. So I've got real estate stuff going on, and I've got my clients, I've got ongoing clients in real estate, ones that I'm constantly working with, which is great. So I've got a few different buyers that are always looking for something, and when they find something, when I find something, now I'm putting time into making sure that something is going to work, or I've got something that I'm helping them develop. So that's a whole nother business as well. So it's been tough managing everything this year, but I'm happy with the way that I've been able to manage it. This could be another video, but a lot of being able to handle everything that I have got going on is because of my relationship with God, and how at peace I am inside, and how I'm able to, it's so easy for me, for my mind to just, as soon as I wake up and in the morning, the first thoughts in my head are about work stuff, like immediately, like I can't, it's just like a reflex thing, and that's fine, but I've learned how to deal with that, and I've learned how to be able to switch my mindset. I've learned how to be able to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to focus on what the most important thing is what's in front of me, being in the moment, my family, my relationship with God. When I'm thinking about those things, and quite frequently that involves me staring into the sky and looking at trees on the horizon. And you may be laughing at that, I don't know, but for me that is something where I can say, okay, you know what, I'm going to fix my mind on God, and obviously God's creation, the sky, the trees. If I'm looking right now, I'm looking at a skyline, I'm looking at trees. Now I'm not thinking about the million things that I have to do. I'm keeping my mind focused there on that. And when I do that, that feeling of peace washes down inside of me. And you need to have that. You have to be able to, if you've got a lot of stuff going on, you need to be able to have something to be able to deal with, and you got to be able to shut your mind off, and you got to be able to really look at things and put things into perspective, and really say, as important as this all is, everything that I've talked about today, this is secondary. This is truly secondary compared to, I mean, what is the reason that I was created and put on this earth? It wasn't to just run around like crazy and to make as much money as I can, to build as many houses as I can, to get in touch with as many people as I can. That's not what God intended for you. That's not why he put you on this earth. So you got to remember that, and you got to have something where you're able to just shut your mind off and put things into perspective, because if you let your mind race and you can't shut it off, obviously you're going to be feeling anxious and stressed out. And that always happens. There's always things that come about that are going to cause me to be anxious or stressed out. It's never like, okay, I found this certain thing, I'm never going to be anxious or stressed out again. I'm never going to overthink again. I'm set. No, it's an ongoing battle with your mind, basically. But once you have something that you're able to battle that with and take control of that with, and I've told you what it is for me, and I believe that's not just like, oh, that works for me, like that will work for you. That will work for everybody. You just have to have faith. But you got to be able to have that. Otherwise, you're stressed out, you're anxious, you're not going to be able to to be sustainable with what you're doing. So that's what I've got going on right now. I could continue to go on and on and on and on. Now the hopes are that I will come back on tomorrow or the next day. I'll do another video and I'll continue to talk about this and what I've got going on. And I'll continue to talk about home building. I'll continue to talk about my positive life that I have and how I keep positive and how I stay happy and my relationship with God. I want to talk about all of that stuff here. But for now, I just wanted to pop back on and kind of let you know what's going on, the reason why I haven't been super consistent with videos. And I still do have my membership courses out there that have great content. If you are looking to start a home building company, if you're looking to build a spec home, if you're in college and this is something you want to do in the future, well, you're paying how much money to go to college? You can pay $35, you can pay $99 a month to be part of the membership coaching program and learn about something that you want to do in the future. So that's all I've got for this one. Thank you for your time. I hope somebody was able to find some good information, maybe some inspiration out of here, just, maybe some entertainment. But thank you so much. And until next time, take care and God bless.